every exceptional person I've been around has one or two traits that's exaggerated to the point where it gives them some sort of leverage or advantage in their domain.
Kevin, excited to have you on the FITTEAM show today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me in. So it's you guys got a cool organization, and it's my pleasure to be here. So
It's an honor to have you here, and look forward to getting to know your story and a little bit more about you.
yeah, it's I've had a kind of a crazy walk through golf, and it's been it's taken me all over the planet. I'm in touch with some of the most interesting people you could ever imagine, and so it's been quite a ride.
I bet. What we like to do is start early on, go way back, where you're from, where you grew up, and some hobbies you had as a kid.
Yeah, so I grew up overseas. My dad was in the oil business, so I spent most of my time running around the equator chasing oil. My dad was, we spent time in Venezuela, Colombia, Nigeria, and so I didn't really live in the States in earnest until I was in high school. So growing up overseas was great. I got a chance to see different cultures and see that different places and get exposed to a lot of different things, including I got a really good dose of Spanish, so I picked up Spanish, and so it's been a great tool for me as an adult. Moved back to the States. My dad, obviously being in the oil and the energy industry, was we ended up in Houston, and so it's kind of been my base for the past since that point in time. I went to college up in Sam Houston State, which is a local school about 60 miles up just north of Houston. I played really competitive, pretty high-level competitive golf through high school, college, and then professionally for 6 years. And then after about 6 years of playing golf, I tapped out there and decided wasn't quite sure what I was going to do, but I ended up, after a year of thinking about it and some crazy stuff, I settled in on teaching golf, and that was in 1990. So I've been doing it for a while.
Awesome. So, living outside the country and came back in high school, how was that to come back to the U.S.? What was that like?
It was interesting. There was a couple of things that I really recall about that. One of them was, I had always fancied the United States as being just since I had been born there, and we would come back in the summers. I always enjoyed being in the States, and always felt like that was home for me. The one thing that one of the great surprises that I got was the little oil field camps over in the overseas. A lot of them, the oil companies will pool together and they'll put together schools. So the schooling that I had and growing up overseas was actually very, very good. It was I'll never forget. I stepped into my ninth grade English class. I kind of came back to the States in the middle of my ninth grade year, and I'm handed this book, and I'm looking at this book going, my gosh, I think I've seen this book before. And it's like spooled back, and I had the same book in seventh grade. So that kind of put me on cruise control through high school. I was like, okay, I think I can handle this, because I was really worried about coming back here, and it was going to be like a lot harder than some of the what I was doing. So it was but yeah, I mean, just the cultural differences, there's so much different being overseas and living here in the States, and I've been fortunate to be able to kind of have both experiences.
When was the first time you picked up a golf club?
Somebody asked me that the other day. My dad was taking up the game about the time that I was born, so I don't really ever recall learning. It was just part of what we did. And my dad was he became a pretty good player over time. So in the oil field camps overseas, a lot of them will have a little golf community, a little country club that you would say, where you would have like a movie theater and a bowling alley and a golf course and tennis courts, and it's really where all the social events would take place for the expats. And so when we would land in one of those countries, we would get involved in those programs pretty quickly and pretty early, and so that's where really my developmental golf took place.
So tell us about your college experience, just in general.
College was a blur. I went to school. had been a good junior player and had been recruited pretty highly through by some of the colleges, and I'd had some offers to go to some high-end Division I schools to play golf. But I'd had a couple of my friends go, and the experience that they'd had wasn't. They ended up sitting on the bench, and there was conflicts with the coaches and other players, and so listening to that, I felt like it was more important for me to go someplace where I could play. So I there's a school right up the road, small college. A couple of my buddies had been there. They'd been winning national championships at the NAI division, and I thought for me it was a better opportunity because I wanted to play all 4 years. And so I went up to Sam Houston State, and I made the team as a freshman, and we had this great run of good golf. Won a couple of national championships while I was there, which was great fun. But I went to college primarily because I wanted to give myself a chance to get better at golf. I ended up getting a business degree just by default because I was there. And but the golf was the primary reason that I'd gone, just to give myself 3 or 4 years to develop my golf. And so I went in great. I was an All-American there. I had a great run. Had be able to be around a couple of national championship teams was a lot of fun. And so I look back on I had back on my college experience with a lot of smiles and good feelings about all the things that happened there. So
Good. So about a year after you said you decided, you're going to start teaching,
Yeah.
what was it that brought you to that point? What made you think, okay, this is something I want to do?
So after I graduated, I in my mind I'd played well enough through college, justified in my mind being able to go out and pursue college professional golf. So I did it, and I had sponsors lined up, and I went out and played Nike level golf, the equivalent of that, probably for 6 years. The Nike tour wasn't in existence, but there's a couple tours that we chased around. There's a TPA tour, which was an organized tour that we played up in Canada, played a little bit in Latin America, and so I had a chance to go, pursue this, and I did it for a while. And I really felt like that there wasn't really a B plan in that place. It was only an A plan, and I was going to be a successful tour player. And as time went by and I didn't achieve the goals that I thought I wanted to, I became increasingly frustrated. And finally I woke up after my 6th year and said, I just can't do this anymore. And it was really a crazy moment. I mean, it was such a dark time in my life because there was no B plan, and so it was like somebody walked up and there's a pane of glass that your life's on. They walked up with a hammer and shattered it, and I was just gutted. And I didn't really have any idea what I wanted to do, what I was going to do, and so I fumbled around, and I had some opportunities to do some contract work in the oil field business, some 30-day on, 30-day off work, and so I took that on because I knew I needed to do something and just jump off into something different. I thought I was really done with golf, that I wasn't really going to be involved with golf going forward. So I stepped off the train there, and I worked in the oil business for a while. And over that course of the year, I had some time to think and reflect, and an opportunity popped up for me to be able to kind of step in and start teaching. And I took it really reluctantly. And the first day I did it, I fell in love with it. And all of a sudden, all the stuff that had happened up to that point, all the frustration and failure that I felt like I'd had in golf, suddenly made sense because I could take that and use that to help other people. And it was just like the whole world aligned. And from the very first day I stepped out there and started doing it, I knew that I'd found my place.
I was just going to ask, along the way, that's obviously overcoming that. What's some other really tough experiences or struggles or challenges that you face that you would want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think golf was built in so deeply. I mean, you're having to kind of face yourself and your failures on such a regular basis, and particularly in an individual sport like golf where you don't have teammates. It's just all about you and your performance. So a lot more failure in golf than success. I would say that there's moving down your life track. We all have different times that we go through where we have challenging moments and challenging times, and some have to do with personal relationships, some have to do with failures in business and different things, and I think that golf prepared me so well to be able to handle those ups and downs, because I've been in the business now for 26 years, and coaching along that period of time obviously had some incredible things that are happening and some really tough challenges that moved me along that pathway. But having had enough adversity as a young kid and through the sport, really, I don't think it actually prepares you to be able to handle those tough moments when they come along. I don't think you can really handle difficult moments unless you've had some adversity. And I think, one of the things I see with parents and kids is trying to protect them from failure. I just think that's just going such a wrong direction, because failure is really your best teacher. It's hard to learn when things are going well, but when things are going off the rails and you feel the pain of that, those are really the times that you can actually really lean in and say, okay, this is obviously doesn't feel good. This is moving the wrong direction. And when you stop and look back and reflect on it, you can start determining, okay, what did I learn? How can I use this to better myself and not repeat the same mistake next time?
Great stuff. So you mentioned you have some accomplishments. Obviously, Teacher of the Year is a huge one, a major one. Let's get into that next. Before we talk about that, we'd love to get into some other accomplishments that you're most proud of.
You know, I when I was playing golf, I was very interested in my accomplishments, you know, because it was really the way things were measured by how much money you made, what tour you were playing on. So having won, you know, different amateur tournaments or, you know, NAIA championships, you know, those types of things were really important to me. And when I got to the end of golf, one of the things I recognized is that my golf had been so much about me. It was such a self-centered experience that it actually was part of what made me sick. I mean, when I got to the end of my playing golf professionally, I was ill. I mean, I was broken to the point where I decided, you know, my life going forward has to be different. It has to be no longer about me. I have to figure out some sort of way where I can make this about trying to help other people instead of trying to serve myself. So as I moved down that path, and it's actually has just pulled me down the path, and I continue to try to be of service to God and to others, really, at the end of the day. And then the principle of Kaizen is kind of the philosophy that I use to try to the continuous improvement every day, trying to get a little bit better. So those couple of things have just pulled me and led me down this path. And along the way, people have recognized, I've been recognized for a few things. I was, you know, Teacher of the Year in our section 5 times in the Southern Texas PGA. This year I was named National PGA Teacher of the Year. So, you know, in my lane, people have recognized my work, but it hasn't really been me going out and trying to necessarily pursue those things as much as those things finding me as a result of this being of service to others, and then this idea of Kaizen, which is, you know, the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement. So those two things have really kind of continue to drive me and move me along my path, and whatever comes my way along that path is just stuff that finds me, I think.
Fascinated to hear about the award tonight, obviously Teacher of the Year. Tell us a little bit more about that and why you're here in West Palm Beach area,
Yeah,
Palm Beaches.
The PGA of America every year gets together, has an annual meeting, and during that annual meeting they also present their national awards. I think there's 6 or 7 different awards. There's Golf Professional of the Year, Merchandise of the Year, and then one of those is the PGA Teacher of the Year. So this year I was recognized and you know, gifted with that honor, and so I'm here tonight to receive that award and pick that award up and in front of all my peers, and it's going to be a great night. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got some cool people that are going to be attending it with me. I've got friends and family that have kind of come in, so we're going to go out and make a night of it and enjoy it, and then tomorrow morning it's back to work. So,
Who's some of your favorite people you've been able to teach, coach?
You know, I've been really fortunate. I've had a chance to kind of spend a fair amount of time. Like Patrick Reed's coach, so being around him has been interesting. He's a really interesting player, and I've learned so much being around him about the pursuit of excellence and what it takes to be great, and you know what separates good from great, the culture that goes with it. I've been able to spend some time with Lexi Thompson. I just think the world of her. She's just an amazing kid and just a complete warrior. Jonathan Vegas, a kid out of Latin America. You talk about overcoming adversity. I mean, there's a kid that every time he turned around the corner for about 10 or 15 years was just another train wreck, and he just through his own perseverance and his own ability to be able to handle all those tough moments, you know, overcame them and became a champion on the PGA Tour. And then outside of golf, I mean, somebody that you're familiar with, Commander Mark McGinnis, who's become a dear friend of mine. Been able to kind of coach him and his son a little bit, and so you know, those are obviously the people that you recognize, but really everybody that I come in contact with has a cool story and something to share, and they're really good at something that I don't know anything about. And so it's, you know, from the funny thing about my work is it's not really work. I just get to go out and hang out with these interesting people and try to steer them down this golf path, and then along the way they share some cool things with me that changed my life, and I can't really call it work. So
What's some things that you would say separate the good from the great? What's some things that you see the better players, the that they're doing something probably just a little bit different than everybody else.
I think most people know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's enough information floating around about how to be successful, but the people that I've been around that have achieved success have the capacity to embody and actually do those things. There's a big disconnect between knowing something and doing something. And so the one thing is that I think these exceptional people can take these basic, simple principles and they actually can apply them. The other thing that I would tell you is that and I've been around several great players through not only my direct association with them, but in events like Ryder Cups and President's Cups and things like that. Every exceptional person I've been around has one or two traits that's exaggerated to the point where it gives them some sort of leverage or advantage in their domain. And sometimes for some people it might be an exaggerated sense of work. Some people have exaggerated senses of perseverance or focus or whatever it might be. But they're so far, they're at least probably two standard deviations off the norm. They are so far out of norm, but those things that allow them to create their differences are the things that really allow them to be exceptionally gifted enough to create an advantage in whatever domain they're operating in. So, and I've been around and being able to see that and recognize that that's a differentiator in success, particularly at the highest levels, has been interesting for me to learn.
What's some goals that you have going forward?
I'm 58 this year, so I'm looking at trying to kind of figure out what the last 10 to 12 years of my golf, my working life is going to look like. And I've really have finally. It's just funny you think about it. I finally think I know enough about what I'm doing to actually put something together that would be significant. So, really focusing, working right now with some friends and colleagues to put together a world-class golf training facility that would support players across all levels of golf, from the novice to the expert, and really focus on trying to get one of those done right. There's a whole bunch of really cool information now about athlete development and human development and how golf can fit into there. So I've got a much clearer idea about how that could work and not only make a really a positive impact on the people, but also make enough provide enough of an economic impact that it could be that I think it would be really good. So looking to try to build something that's transformational and transactional, and but I think I got a pretty clear picture of what it's looking like. So just right now, looking for organizing the right location team and getting ourselves organized around that. So hopefully it's the next 12 to 15 months that we'll be able to have something on the ground, tangible, that people can come out and enjoy, and we can have some fun in.
Who's some people behind the scenes? Anytime you see someone successful like yourself, obviously there's some people behind the scenes that helped you get to where you're at. You mentioned your dad earlier. Who could you mention that you wouldn't mind sharing with us that's helped you, make you the person you are?
I've had great golf coaches along the way that have helped me. People like, Bob Toski was an early friend, influence of mine. Lives right down here in the area. Francie Betancourt, a golf pro in Venezuela, that helped me in the golf space. I've had good high school and golf coaches along the way. Once I kind of got into the professional space, people like Mike Adams, who's been an influential guy in the golf space for a long time. I've got Pete Cowan, who's a really top-notch technical coach in Europe that's been helping me formulate my ideas about how to approach things. And I also have looked outside of golf, and some of my help has just come from people that are way outside of the golf lane. I reach out to my friends like Bobby Chrysler and Matt Judy, who have helped me with how to operate in the golf space from a business perspective. I've got people like Jerry Lynch, who's helped me understand culture, philosophy, and how to bring that to the table in this space. The one thing that you recognize about once you wake up in the morning and step out of your house is that you can't really do anything by yourself. And so I've had I've had a ton of people. Ramsey McMaster from Australia, probably a guy that changed the way I thought about things and the way I see the world. So I mean, you start thinking about, okay, I I can't really do anything without all these other people. So, building a good network of people and building relationships inside those networks that are sustainable and that you can depend on each other back and forth has been one of the great experiences of my life. And I can't even begin to imagine where I would be had people not taken time to help me in my pathway along the way. So.
What advice do you have for someone that's just starting out in golf, or even maybe some doing exactly what you're doing now, is teaching other golfers? What tip do you have just on success in general that someone's getting started?
Yeah, I think it's, if you're from a playing perspective, if you're just getting started, you have to understand it's a very difficult game, and nobody's ever really mastered it. So it's something that's good. It takes a lot of time to work on, to build the skills. I think it's just really finding a way to enjoy it, and if you can find a really good Sherpa, somebody to kind of go along beside you and help teach you the things that you need to through the different stages of the game, I think that's what I would strongly recommend that. From a coaching perspective, I would say that it's really about a couple things. Is being able to put yourself in a position to be able to service to other people and realize that the coaching is about being of service to others. I would also encourage them to take an open-minded approach. A lot of coaches, by the time they get to a place where they start taking on coaching, have their own ideas about how they want to do things. But to really be open-minded and explore all the other ideas around them, because you just never can tell when you're going to run into somebody or something that's going to change the way you think. And I've had a handful of those people in my life that I've moved through, and from that moment when I met that person, absolutely changed the way I saw the world. So go back to Ramsey McMaster, changed the way I saw the world. Go back to Jerry Lynch, changed the way I saw the world. So you have these people that when you and the only way you can get to them is to have an open mind and be willing to kind of invite them into your life, or go out there and find them.
That's great. What else would you want anyone to know about you that you haven't mentioned so far?
I run in small circles. I really focus on trying to be, like I said, to be of service to God and to others, and what I get a charge out of is just being out there and being able to help somebody move from point A to point B. So I'm not very self-absorbed. So the things that I do are from hobbies and different things like that would be things that are just for me to blow off some steam. But the bulk of my time is spent really just trying to go out and be of service to others.
Congratulations once again on Teacher of the Year. It's another great accomplishment, incredible, and we're happy for you and all your success you've had.
Thanks, and you too, Chris. You built yourself quite you've got an incredible business here, and obviously I appreciate you're doing these podcasts so we can hear from some other people that in your network, and you obviously have an awesome and cool network, and I really appreciate you having me on today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.